So we're just going to do 3 examples of this stuff today before you can go ahead and get started on your notes. And it's the same thing we've been doing, except now A is a bigger number. So we need to first identify what A, B, and C are. And remember, ax squared plus bx plus c, they are just numbers, so don't add the variables. It's just the number and the sign. So A is always the number in front of x squared, so 3. B is the number in front of x. Make sure you take the sign with it, negative 11. And C is just the number by itself. Okay. So we need to know what multiplies to AC. So A times C is 3 times 10. So that's where our 30 is coming from. Some teachers call this like the rainbow because you're multiplying the 3 times the 10 and they make like a rainbow every time. So it multiplies to 30 and adds to negative 11. 5 and negative 6. Okay, let me real quick do this list. And then, yes, I think you're right. I think our sign might be a little off, but besides that, I think we're good. Okay, so making this list, we're trying all of our numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to try all those numbers. So you take 30 divided by 1. 30. It will always be the other number. Any number divided by 1 is itself. 30 divided by 2. 15. 30 divided by 3. Not 15. If you don't know, you just use calculator. 10. There we go. 30 divided by 4 is a decimal. So if you get a decimal, that's not a factor. So you can get rid of that one. We don't want that one. What about 30 divided by 5? 6. And so now that we have 6, we know 6 is a factor. And if I divide 30 by 6, I'm going to get 5. So we know our list is over because the next number I would check is right here. So we can get rid of these other ones. 7's not going to be a factor. So 1 times 30 is 30. 2 times 15 is 30. 3 times 10 is 30. 5 times 6 is 30. So all 4 of these pairs multiply to 30, but only one of them will add to negative 11. So I realize we're having trouble if there's ever a negative in our Magic X. So I want to really simplify this process. This is the easiest way to simplify it. So if you're multiplying to a positive and adding to a positive, both numbers have to be positive. If you're multiplying to a positive and adding to a negative, both numbers have to be negative. If you're multiplying to a negative and adding to a negative, you want the bigger number to be negative. And if you're multiplying to a negative and adding to a positive, you want the bigger number to be positive. So this really is the reason I'm making the video. I realized I could just simplify it for you and tell you that this is how you find your 2 numbers. So what we're doing on this first example, I'll come right back, I know you're copying it. We're doing on this first example, where'd it go? is multiplying to a positive and adding to a negative. And if you multiply to a positive and add to a negative, both numbers have to be negative. -5 and -6, yes. So -5 and -6. All right. My people at home, I definitely write this down. Even my people in the classroom, I definitely have this written down somewhere. If you don't get a chance to copy it, I'll put it back on the board at the end of class, at the end of this video. Or my people at home, pause the video. Pause the video and you can copy it down. Okay. I'll come back to it. It's not really the neatest. I wish I'd written a little bit neater. But especially with like going back to like the Magic X game on all the Delta maths, I just showed you that this then would have made it life a lot easier, wouldn't it? I thought about it overnight. I was like, why didn't I just show them that? Because in my head this makes sense, but I can see I've been doing this a long time. This makes so much sense. Why did I not show it to you before? Hey, Austin. All right, I'm gonna keep going. I'll pull this back up. Maybe I can add it to our screen a little bit because this will definitely help you guys with that Magic X. Put here. Just keep that on my slides, maybe. Okay, so if we're adding to 11, 5 and 6 add to 11. 5 and 6 add to 11, but it has to be a -11. So like we said, that's this one over here. Both numbers have to be negative. So ax squared goes in the top corner. C goes in the bottom corner. And the two numbers you chose go in the other two boxes with an x. So that's what the times x means on both of these boxes. But -5x, -6x. Okay, so we do the greatest common divisor. What do they have in common? 3 and -5. 1x, yes. And remember with greatest common factor, this is the long way to do it, but it's good to see. 1 and 3 is prime because only 1 times 3 gives me 3. I have 2 x's. 5 is also prime, so 1 and 5, and it's only 1x. So their greatest common, the biggest number they have in common is 1, and they have 1x in common. So that's how I got 1x. And then I do 3x squared and 6x. So 3 and 6, what's the biggest number that can go in both of those nicely? 3. And then how many x's do they have in common? This one has 2 and this one has 1. So 1x in common. It's always the smallest amount of x's. Okay. And then 3x. So 3 times what gives you -6? So 3 times what gives me -6? Or -3 times what gives me 6? Let me write what I'm saying. 3 times what gives me -6? Has to be negative because a positive times a negative is a negative. But 3 times what gives me 6? 2. 2, absolutely. 2. 3 times 2 is 6. We're still waking up. We're still waking up. It's fine. Okay. If you don't like what times to get you that, if that's harder for you, you can always say divide. -6 divided by 3. Let me write that. Let me show you. -6 divided by 3. Wait, 6 negative divided by 3 is -2. Again, -5 divided by 1. -5. And then to make sure, especially if you have negatives, make sure your signs are right. -2 times -5 is a positive 10. So you know your answer's right. The outside is your answers. When you factor the outside, your answers. Give me some room to write my answer. I had a student asked me yesterday, does it matter if I do 1x minus 2 first, or could I do 3x minus 5 first? And it doesn't. You can switch that order. So this is the same thing as 3x minus 5, then x minus 2. So those are equal. So just make sure they're in parentheses and make sure you have a sign in between both of them. Let's do 2 more. And I'll let you practice your own. Just making sure no one's writing. I was always the slowest kid writing things down, so I just really make sure you guys aren't. If you guys are finished writing, not that you are the slowest kid. Okay. So we're just practicing this over and over and over again today. Because it's a lot of steps, and I know it's a lot of steps. A is, B is, C is. Multiplies to AC and adds to B. So A is always the number with the x squared or the variable squared, since we changed it to an m. So A is just 9. B is always with x or just m, 3. And C is the number by itself, -2. So what are we trying to find? It multiplies to what number? -18, because 9 times -2 is -18, and adds to B, which is 3. So numbers that multiply to 18. 1 and 18, 2 and 1. 9, 3, 6, 4. No, if I do 4, I get decimal, so that doesn't work. 5, decimal. And then the next number I'm checking is 6. So this is my whole factors of 8. These are the only numbers that will multiply and get me 18. So if you look at our little chart we just made here, and we're trying to get a negative up top and a positive on bottom, the bigger number has to be positive, and you want to subtract your two numbers. So which of these two numbers have a difference of 3? When I subtract them, I get 3. 3 and 6. And you said the bigger one has to be positive. So 3 is negative. The bigger number has to be positive, so that means the smaller one's negative. I know this, my like cheat sheet chart up here says X, but we changed to M's. So instead of X's, I'm going to put M's with it. It doesn't matter where you put it. 3M, negative 3M, and 6M. If you switch those, that's fine. Your answer is just, my answer on top is going to be your answer on the side. And your answer on the side is going to be my answer on top. All right, greatest common divisor between 9 and 6. What's the biggest number you can divide into both of those? 3. And then I also want to tell you, if the numbers get too big, your calculator can do it for you. But you're right, it is 3. And then M squared and M means they have one M in common. So 1 and 9, 3 and 3, 2 M's. 1 and 6, 2 and 3, 1 M. So you're right, the biggest number they had in common was 3, and there's one variable in common. So that's how I got 3M. What about 9 and negative 3? It's 3 again. M. M squared and M. It's always the smallest number, so M. Okay, so 3 times what gives you 6? 2. There we go. Got it today. And then 3 times what gives me negative 3? Negative 1. Nice job. And then just to check we got it right, negative 1 times 2 gave me negative 2. We factored, so our outside is our answers, right here and here. And make sure you always have a sign in the middle of your 2. It's a positive 2, so I put a plus. This one's a negative 1, so I'll put a minus. So 3M minus 1. And 3M plus 2. All right, one last one, and then you'll be good to do it on your own. Do your notes. Do your assignment. Transfer everything over. A is always the number in front of the variable being squared, so A is 4. B is the number in front of, usually just X, but in this case just A. -4. Make sure you take the sign with it. And C is always just the constant, the last number. So it multiplies to AC and adds to B. So A times C is 4 times 1, which is just 4. But multiplies to 4 and adds to B. B is -4. So positive on top, negative on bottom, both of them have to be negative. Say it. So 2 and 2 add to 4, and negative, both of them have to be negative. -2 plus -2 add to -4. So do you do that again? I did pretty quick. All right, so you list all your factors, things that multiply to 4, 1 and 4, 2 and 2. My next number I would try is 3. 3 doesn't go into 4, and then 4 is already up there, so you know you're done. Those are the only numbers that multiply to 4. But they have to add to 4. So if I add these two, 1 plus 4 is 5. So it can't be that one. And 2 plus 2 is 4. So that is 4. So these must be our numbers. So 2 and 2 must be our numbers. But it has to add to -4. So the way to get a negative when you multiply to a positive but add to a negative is both numbers have to be negative. Because negative times a negative is a positive, but negative plus a negative will give you a bigger negative. And then you're going to take -2a and -2a. You always multiply your variable in there. And then take out your greatest common factor. So greatest common factor between 4 and 2 between 4 and 2 is 2. My calculator's finally up. So remember, for my people who aren't here, this calculator, you can go home. If you ever want to get back to this screen, this is your home screen. So you just hit the home button. And you can go to calculate. And under menu, number, greatest common divisor, 4 and 2 is 2. Obviously, that's not a hard one compared to something like 30 and 20. 30 and 200. Something crazy is 10. So that's menu, number, greatest common divisor. You can't hear me. My mic's not working. I don't know why my mic's not working. All right, let me finish this one last one with you guys and get you guys started, and then I'll figure out why my mic's not working. I have to make this video all again. Okay, so we figured out it was 2a. And then 4, again, this is the same one. 4 negative 2 is again 2a. 2a times what gives you negative 2a? 2 times negative 1 gives me negative 2a. And then this is the same one here. Of course, 4 just 2a times negative 1 gives me negative 2a. And negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, just to check it. So we have 2a minus 1 and 2a minus 1. So that's your answer. If you would also see this answer written as 2a minus 1 squared. I haven't seen this on Delta Math yet, but it's possible. So I just want to show you. Since they're the exact same parentheses, that's the same thing as 2a minus 1 squared. All right. Okay, so get out your Chromebook. First thing I want you to do is take your attendance. Take your attendance. So go to our classroom, second block. Take your attendance. If you come down here to your weekly agenda, I also have your attendance like attached today. And you got to do this every day to become present for this class. At home or in here, you have to do this every single day. I think I'm going to try to start putting that link here. And so also I put in the link if you're home for the Google Classroom right there. And then today's work, of course, has a link to Delta Math. All right, let me see if I can get my microphone to work, and then I will come around and help you guys. So all of this week, sample student, all of this week's work is about this greatest common factor. And so starting on 216 is basically what we, I say 217. So 217, 218, review for the quiz, that's just the video. And then this quiz had and the test. You don't have to watch it because you're here for the class, but if you want, I think I fixed that. Somebody else emailed me that. It's because I made it like private or something. I don't know. Okay. Now, why isn't mine working? All right, so try to get started and I'll come help you as soon as I get my mic working. Why won't my